Part 53. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 559. ID Con 1701045. Jeter pulled the meteor hammer back again. Boy with curly eyebrows, are your movements quite agile, Jeter said, already sweating profusely. After fighting for a while, Jeter tore the suit on his upper body, showing off his muscular muscles. This burly man is covered with exaggerated muscles, and his face and forehead are swollen because of the muscles. Jet continued to swing the meteor hammer, and then threw it at Sanji. Sanji quickly dodged and then quickly approached Jet. Sanji's speed is still very fast, he sprints like a healthy horse. Sanji rushed in front of Jeter. It was too late for Jeter to take back the meteor hammer. Sanji suddenly kicked Jet in the chin with his foot. First meet. Jeter's head was kicked away from the chin. Click. At this time, the sound of teeth cracking can be heard for a while. Jeter was also kicked and opened his mouth, and several bloody teeth flew out. It wasn't over yet, Sanji continued with a series of consecutive kicks. Brisket. Belly. Calf meat. Sanji kicked 3 times in a row, hitting Jeter's chest, abdomen, and calves. Sanji jumped up and kicked Jet violently with alternate legs. Superlative ground meat. Sanji's legs kicked out dozens of times at a speed that was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. These dozens of kicks sent Jet rolling to the ground, and finally hit a wall. Because of the excessive force, the wall was smashed and dented a little. Jeter was so embarrassed that he fell to the ground. Hateful. But this brawny man was really strong, and he stood up hard. Jeter looked at Sanji viciously, he opened his mouth, and blood flowed out, and he spat out 2 teeth that had not been spit out. You bastard, you actually beat me like this. It seems I have to cut you into pieces. Jeter said harshly. Sanji looked at Jet. He had finished smoking his cigarette during the battle, so he took out another one, put it in his mouth and lit it. Yeah, come on. Sanji said calmly. Jeter took out 2 very strong steel gloves from his waist this time and put them on his hands. Jet looked at Sanji and assumed a fighting stance like a boxer. Okay, look at my iron fist, Jet said fiercely. Jet clenched his fists and rushed towards Sanji. His whole body jumped up at the same time. This burly man was about to hit Sanji. Sanji dodges quickly. Jeter hit the ground heavily with his fist as the lead. Boom. The floor of the room was violently shattered. Sanji felt a tremor under his feet at this moment. Jet pulled his fist out of the ground again, and continued to attack Sanji. Heavy armored fist. Jet struck out with his right fist, really hitting Sanji like an ironclad fist. Sanji evaded violently, but Jeter's punch was extremely fast. Sanji quickly blocked the opponent's punch with his left leg. Boom. Sanji's leg and Jet's fist hit each other. At the moment when Sanji was fighting with the opponent, he immediately felt the strength of the opponent. Moreover, because Sanji was temporarily resisting, facing the enemy's full blow, he was even almost blown away. I'll let you taste my heavy armored fist. Jeter struck out with both fists this time. Heavy fists like iron armor kept hitting Sanji. Dong 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 dong. Sanji's legs kept blocking Jeter's heavy armored fist. The more Jeter attacked, the more passionate he became, and this burly man had become a ferocious beast. Go to hell. Jet finally managed to hit Sanji with a punch. Boom. Sanji was hit flying, and the whole person spun and flew out. Sanji finally slammed into the wall. Sanji finally bent his legs violently, and finally his more gentle legs hit the wall. Then Sanji used his strength to kick hard and bounce himself back. Sanji finally managed a somersault and landed on the ground. I didn't expect you to have some skills, Sanji said to Jeter. Jet continued to clench his fists and rushed towards Sanji again. Sanji also continued to dodge. Sanji saw the object in this office and decided to use it to attack his opponent. Sanji came to the side of the huge oak table, pointed at Jeter who was rushing over, and kicked the oak table with all his strength. Boom! This huge oak table was kicked off. The huge oak table flew towards Jeter. Jeter swung his fist violently and aimed at the oak table flying over and punched hard. Boom! This punch shattered the oak table into several large pieces. Jet continued to rush towards Sanji. Sanji looked at Jet, who was rushing towards him, and he quickly jumped over. Jeter suddenly prepared to punch forward again. Sanji just noticed Jeter's attack style. The way Jeter attacks is to aim his punches forward. When attacking the front, the speed and power are very strong. But the opponent obviously has a weakness, and that is the side and rear. Sanji quickly rushed to the front of Jeter, and jumped up when the opponent was about to punch. Die! Jeter's heavy armor punches out. Sanji has already jumped on top of Jeter. At this time, Sanji suddenly spun like a wheel in mid-air. Coarsely chopped. Sanji's whole body hit Jeter's head below like a spinning wheel. Jet found that the situation was not good, and quickly retracted his fist above his head to defend. But it was too late. Click. Sanji's foot hit the top of Jeter's head in a rough state, and there was a harsh sound of bone shattering. Jeter quickly felt a shock in his head. Although Jeter's body is very strong, but the head is also a weakness. Sanji's blow directly shattered Jet's skull bones. His brain was also severely damaged. Jet's entire burly body trembled after receiving a heavy blow. Sanji also fell behind Jeter. Then Jet's trembling body fell forward, and bursts of blood flowed from his head. Sanji turned around to look at the burly man. It is true that you have some skills, but you are still too bulky. Combat mainly relies on flexibility and explosive strength. Brute force and a big body alone cannot defeat a truly powerful enemy. Sanji said to the fallen Jet. Jet was severely injured and his life and death were unknown, so naturally he couldn't hear Sanji's words. Sanji then left the room. Only Jeter was left on the ground. After walking out of this room, Sanji checked the other rooms on the third floor of the mansion. There were no enemies in the other rooms either. Of course, there are still the bodies of the security forces who were killed before in the corridor. Sanji saw that there were no enemies, so he went up to the fourth floor of the mansion from the stairs at the end of the corridor. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 560. ID Con 1701058. The sails on the Discovery's main mast were pulled to maximum. Meanwhile all are ready to fight. The sea breeze became stronger and stronger, and the fog began to be blown away on a large scale. At the same time, the sky gradually began to rain. What should come has finally come, Sauron said. Leo and the 4 King Seagull brothers were in the sky looking at the sea below. The fog was blown away, revealing the hull of the Discovery. After seeing it, Leo said happily, "It's really great. Finally, I can attack." Although the stormy weather is approaching, it is finally possible to attack without the fog. Leo was unwilling to wait any longer. After all, things might get worse as time passed. "Okay, let's start bombing," Leo said. Leo and the 4 King Seagull brothers began to bomb the Discovery below. On the deck of the Discovery, everyone was able to see Leo and the 4 King Seagulls clearly. Everyone in Leo has seen it. But what really shocked everyone was King Seagull. The huge body of the King Seagull can reach more than meters with its wings spread. Flying in the sky is comparable to a giant. "Oh my God," Usopp said. "What is this?" Chopper said. "How could there be such a huge seagull?" Sanji said in surprise. "This is truly a monster," Rog said. "Wow, I really want to ride on it and see it," Luffy said. Robin looked up at the sky and felt how huge these king seagulls were. "I have no choice but to fight," Sauron said calmly. The goddess of spring water and the king of ninja are also ready to fight. Leo was the first to fly above the Discovery. Go to hell, you stinking human being. The two heavy bombs carried under Leo were thrown down. Two heavy bombs hit the Discovery below. The bomb is coming, full right rudder, Nami commanded. No problem, Miss Nami. Sanji quickly completed the full right rudder. The huge hull of the Discovery turned to starboard. As soon as the ship turned around, two heavy bombs hit the sea, and the sudden violent explosion splashed amazing water columns. Discovery successfully dodged two heavy bombs. Good job, Luffy cheered. Sanji, good job. Nami also praised Sanji. After hearing this, Sanji said with love on his face, Miss Nami, I'm waiting for you. There is another very important reason why Sanji takes the helm. That is when Nami gave an order, Sanji did it with all his strength. In this way, Sanji can perform exceptionally at critical moments. This makes Discovery more likely to survive. After Leo's attack failed, he looked at the Discovery. Now Discovery's speed has greatly increased due to the storm sea breeze. And it seems that the helmsman is also a master at steering. It seems that sinking them is much harder than imagined. It's up to you next, the four brothers of the King Seagull Leo said to them. The four king gulls all screamed alarmingly, and then began to bomb the Discovery. The king seagulls began to lower their altitude. They aimed at the Discovery and dived. On the deck of the Discovery, Nami saw these king seagulls swooping. Sanji, irregular sailing, Nami ordered. Okay, Miss Nami. Sanji is now a man with % combat effectiveness. Under Sanji's rapid steering changes, the Discovery was moving irregularly from side to side on the sea. The king seagulls have already started throwing heavy bombs. Each throws 4 heavy bombs. A total of 16 bombs hit the Discovery below. The heavy bomb hit the sea behind the Discovery, and quickly exploded in the sea, setting off a column of water that soared into the sky. There were also heavy bombs that hit the sea on the side of Discovery. The soaring water column was produced by the explosion. On the deck of the Discovery, there was rainwater due to the storm, but now the water waves generated by the water column sprinkled on everyone. It's so spectacular, Luffy said excitedly. Idiot, how can you be like this? Usopp and Chopper said. Rog saw this shocking scene. It would be nothing if it hit the sea. It would be a disaster if such a heavy bomb hit the deck. Roger felt unprecedented pressure. Now you need to find a way to avoid being hit by these heavy bombs. So Rog also spent an astonishing amount of energy last night researching and transforming new plant weapons. Roger put a wooden stake around his right arm, and the stake wrapped around the wrist. Okay, it's time for you to show your power, Rog said. This stake is not the stake air cannon that has been used before. Rather, it is a powerful weapon with astonishing power. The power of the plant fruit in Rog's body is continuously injected into the stake. The front end of the stake began to expand rapidly. From the front of the stake actually grew a hand, and then an arm. It's just that this arm is made of trees. The shape is just like an arm. Alright, hand of the giant wood. The arm on this stake continued to grow longer and become larger. Eventually it grew into an arm huge enough to grab a cow. Usopp saw Rog's giant wooden hand and said in surprise, is this the arm of the giants? You'll know soon, Rog said. The giant seagulls in the sky kept dropping heavy bombs. Another heavy bomb was not dodged and was about to hit the deck. At this time, Rog's right arm controlled the giant wooden hand to quickly catch the heavy bomb. Then quickly throw it to the sea aside. Boom! The sea exploded violently. Amazing water splashes. Rog successfully avoided this heavy bomb with the giant wooden hand. After Rog used the giant wooden hand to successfully evade the attack, Usopp said, it's really amazing. Chopper also said, it's so cool. Luffy said, it's fun. Sauron is always paying attention to the big king seagulls in the sky. I always get some weird weapons, Sauron said. The Ninja King also admired Rog's ability in his heart. The King Seagull continues to drop heavy bombs. This time, 5 heavy bombs were dropped in a row, 3 of which were avoided by Sanji using the rudder. But after all, the Discovery is a meteor warship with a huge hull, so there are still some heavy bombs that can hit this heavy warship. 2 other heavy bombs hit the Discovery deck. Roger quickly grabbed one of the heavy bombs with his giant wooden hand and threw it into the sea. But there is also a heavy bomb. At this time, Sauron brandished 2 knives. Sword style. Rhino way. Zoro used his double sword this time when the heavy bomb was only 10 meters away. The resulting whirlwind deflected the heavy bomb. The heavy bomb also hit the sea beside the Discovery. Under the cover of Rog's wooden hand and Sauron, the Discovery successfully evaded 2 heavy bombs. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 561. ID Con 1701625. Sargeras grasped the 2 hatchets tightly, preparing to attack again. Since one can't do it, then attack both at the same time. Sargeras violently threw the 2 hatchets held in both hands at the same time. The 2 hatchets spun back and forth as if flying back and forth and attacked Sanji with an arc trajectory. Sanji looked at the 2 hatchets that were rapidly approaching. 2 hatchets flew from the left and the right. Oops! Sanji jerked back, using the reaction force of his feet against the ground to launch himself off. Chong! The 2 spinning hatchets finally collided. Sagras rushed forward and picked up the 2 hatchets at once. How could Sanji miss this perfect opportunity to attack? Single knife. Cross-cutting. Sanji quickly jumped over, his right leg cutting straight from right to left like a giant kitchen knife. Sagras hurriedly used 2 hatchets to block. Clang. Sanji's leg, which was strong enough to kick the chariot, struck Sagras's 2 hatchets together. It's really powerful, Sagras said with a very stressed expression. He exerted all his strength with his arms, but his whole body still leaned a little to the side. After all, Sanji's kick is too powerful. You're not bad, you're worth 100 of those soldiers, Sanji said to Sagras. Sagras looked at Sanji and said, "Thank you for the compliment." Sanji bounced his right leg away, and then kicked several times in a row. Sagras also swung 2 hatchets with both hands and kept blocking. Clang clang clang. The 2 sides fought fiercely. Sanji and Sagras fought fiercely, and after a fierce battle, the bedroom was already in a mess. The surrounding walls are full of hacked cracks, or shattered parts. The originally gorgeous bed and tea table were turned into a pile of fragments and placed in disorder on the damaged ground. The 2 continued to fight. Sagras finally rushed out of the door of this room, and Sanji chased after him. In the end, the 2 went to the corridor on the 4th floor to fight together. In the corridor, the 2 fought fiercely. Sanji's leg and Sargeras' hatchet were handed over fiercely. The space in the corridor is wider, and the battle between the 2 is more intense. While Sanji and Sagras were fighting fiercely in the mansion. In the huge courtyard of Grandet Mansion, Rog and Luffy continued to fight fiercely with the security forces of the 4th Legion commanded by the commander of the Korra's Legion. Several security forces fired dense bullets at Rog with submachine guns. But the walnut armor on Rog's body resisted these bullets, sputtering countless sparks. Die! Rog swung the iron birch sword at the head of a security guard and slashed it off. Puff! The security guard's head was chopped off, and his body clenched his submachine gun and fell to the ground. Since these security forces all wore steel helmets, Rog only slashed diagonally or horizontally when he slashed. If you chop directly on the top of the head, it will be difficult to cut off the helmet. Several other security forces were frightened and retreated quickly after seeing their partner killed. Rog continued to charge, and the submachine gun bullets of the enemy soldiers swung the iron birch sword to kill the enemy. Rog rushed in front of a security guard, swung the iron birch sword and aimed at the opponent's abdomen and cut it. Puff. The vigilante's abdomen was cut open, and internal organs such as intestines and stomach flowed out, and those body fluids were mixed with blood. Ah, ah. The vigilante shuddered and fell, his body continuing to twitch on the ground. This blow did not directly kill him, but fatally wounded him. He would not die until the blood flowed for a certain period of time. Seeing this tragic situation, the other security forces were even more terrified. They quickly continued to retreat, and at the same time took out the long-handled fuse grenade, pulled the fuse and threw it at Rog. Zit-zai-zai-zai-zai. The three long-handled fuse grenades that were pulled apart released sparks and white smoke and were thrown towards Rog. Boom 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 boom. There were three loud bangs, and three long-handled fuse grenades beside Rog exploded. The walnut armor on Rog suffered a little damage, but he was still able to fight. Rog continued to wield the great iron birch sword to kill these security forces. When Rog fought the enemy bravely, Luffy also fought fiercely with the security forces. It is different from Rog's bloody and deadly style. Luffy's various exaggerated hand-to-hand combat. Rubber. Pistol. Luffy punched out, and his arms stretched accordingly. The fist hit a vigilante in the head, knocking him rolling on the ground. There were also 7 security forces aiming their rifles at Luffy. Shooting. 7 vigilantes pulled the triggers of their rifles. Bang 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 bang. The bullets fired at Luffy. The caliber and power of these rifle bullets are to surpass submachine guns. 7 bullets hit Luffy. Luffy's body sank. Bounce. Luffy's body deflected 7 bullets. 7 bullets ricocheted, hitting 3 of the vigilantes, knocking them to the ground. There were also 4 security forces who became very frightened when they saw it. Rubber. Machine gun. Luffy used both fists together, hitting more than 10 punches in a row. What? What? So strong. The 4 security forces were knocked down by Luffy's fist. Luffy waved his fist and said, "Okay, keep going." After seeing the security forces being defeated continuously, a security officer led more than 20 security forces to surround Luffy. Bullets have no effect on him. This guy's body is made of rubber. We use bayonets and sabers against him, the security officer ordered. These more than 20 security forces all had bayonets inserted into their rifles, and those with sabers drew them out in preparation for battle. Charge, the security force officer waved his saber and led the security force soldiers to charge. The security force's soldiers raised their rifles, and the bayonets on them stabbed at Luffy brightly. "Wow, so many bayonets!" Luffy said excitedly. The security force's soldiers raised their rifles and stabbed Luffy with the bayonet on the front. Luffy also knew the threat of sharp weapons to himself, so he hurriedly dodged backwards. After retreating more than 10 meters in a row, Luffy suddenly jumped into the air. Rubber. Tempest. Luffy used both fists together, hitting dozens of punches in a row. These fists hit the security forces soldiers on the ground. More than a dozen security forces were knocked down to the ground. After Luffy attacked like this, he fell to the ground again. 11 officers and soldiers, including the security officer, remained. The security officer looked at Luffy with a terrified expression. "It's really powerful. Such a powerful attack power," the security officer said in horror. Luffy moved his arms and said, "Keep going." The security officer was also afraid, and he didn't dare to lead the soldiers to charge. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 562. ID Con 1701631. Chopper said while eating the cake, "Really?" Usopp continued, "Of course that's not all. Captain Usopp also accidentally saved a Navy warship with one hand. Usopp gushed over his glorious deeds. Just as dinner was being held on the deck of the Discovery. Above the sky, Leo, who had already transformed into a seagull form, spread his wings and flew. Only the moon and stars shine in the dark night. But it's not a problem for Leo at all. The eyes of seagulls can also clearly distinguish objects on the sea below at night. Behind Leo were 4 huge seagulls. These 4 are the king seagulls invited by Leo. A king seagull can reach more than meters with its wings spread. These great king gulls are actually 4 brothers. They used to be giant seabirds that lived in windless areas and fed on sea kings. But Leo found them once, and there was a conflict. But Leo won the approval of the 4 brothers of the king seagull with his strong ability and the spirit of defending the seagull race. They also went to live on the cliffs above Seagull Island, the great route where Leo was. In the past, many ships traveling on the sea area of the Great Route were attacked by Leo, and the 4 brothers King Seagull often helped. They hunt and kill humans, and Leo seizes various weapons and supplies on the ship. This time Leo personally invited them to go out together. The 4 King Seagull brothers were furious when they heard that seagulls were being slaughtered and even used as food. Together with Leo, they attacked the Discovery and everyone. But they didn't come empty-handed. Many heavy bombs were tied to the torsos of the 4 King Seagull brothers. 30 heavy bombs are strapped to the torso of each great King Seagull. The shape of these heavy bombs is exactly the same as the heavy bombs used by Leo during the daytime raid on the Discovery. The King Seagulls are carrying heavy bombs and are preparing to attack the Discovery under the guidance of Leo. Leo himself only carried 4 bombs. He's mostly guiding and revenge this time around. I must destroy these stinky humans, Leo said fiercely. After continuous flying, Leo and the King Seagulls finally flew to the sea area where the Discovery was. In the sea below, the Discovery rover is sailing. Although it was already night, Leo and the King Seagulls could still clearly see the Discovery below. Leo's piercing eyes saw a faint burst of fire on the deck of the Great Sea Explorer below. Damn it, so many seagulls have been killed. How dare you eat dinner comfortably like this? But, you will soon feel what terror is, Leo said. Leo took the lead and flew towards the Discovery below. The King Seagulls also followed, but they flew higher. Leo flew above the Discovery and aimed at the front of the deck. That's where Rog and Sauron had their dinner. Suffer death, bastards. Leo aimed at the deck and dropped 2 heavy bombs first. 2 heavy bombs hit the deck. Everyone who was dining on the deck was talking and laughing. At this moment, Rog, Sauron, and the King of Ninjas felt something was wrong. A dangerous breath approached. Sauron's sense is especially strong. Zoro and the Ninja King suddenly looked up, and saw 2 heavy bombs falling down. Although the moonlight and starlight were dim, the 2 of them could still see the 2 heavy bombs. Seeing this, Zoro said in a bad way, "Oh no, quickly find a way to deflect the bomb." Roger quickly took out a rattan whip. Quickly infuse fruit power into it. Vine whip. Super vine net. Rog used the plant fruit ability to interweave the vine whip repeatedly, turning it into a huge net. A huge net covered the upper deck. And quickly rushed towards the top. When the 2 heavy bombs were only more than 10 meters away from the deck, they were caught by the huge super rattan net. Okay, let's go. Zoro and the Ninja King took the opportunity to jump up quickly, and each grabbed one side of the super vine net. The 2 of them worked hard together. The super vine net and the 2 heavy bombs inside were thrown into the sea on the left side of the Discovery deck. After the 2 heavy bombs were thrown down, they quickly exploded in the sea. Boom, rumble, rumble. 2 explosions sounded, and the water column actually splashed tens of meters high. Everyone on the deck was terrified. Usopp was so scared that he lay on the deck. Chopper hid behind Luffy in fright. Luffy also exclaimed at the huge splash of water. Wow, that's so cool. Rog, Zoro, the king of ninjas. Is this a show for the three of you to perform together? Luffy said excitedly. Rog and Saran both said helplessly, what? We were attacked. The Ninja King was also shocked for a while, and then quickly looked around. Now it was suddenly attacked, and there was no one else but Leo. And the heavy bomb used just now was also used by Leo. Usopp immediately stood up and looked around and at the night sky. God, look, Usopp said, pointing his finger at the sky. Everyone looked up at the night sky. I saw a shadow like a seagull in the sky. This shadow is in the sky above Discovery. But judging by the appearance, there is no doubt that it is Leo. But what really terrified and surprised everyone was that there were 4 huge seabird-like things flying in the higher sky. What's going on? Usopp said in surprise. I'm afraid we have more than one enemy, Rog said. There are a lot of monsters too, Luffy said. In the night sky, the 2 heavy bombs that Leo dropped first were successfully blocked. Why is this happening? Leo said in surprise. On the deck of the Explorer below, Rog looked at the terrifying shadows in the night sky. If you are fighting on deck or on land, you are not afraid of anything. But worst of all, the enemy is in the sky. The enemy is using the sky advantage to attack here. At this time, the goddess of spring water said, let me try it. The goddess of spring suddenly used an iron axe. She held up the iron axe and whispered a magic spell in her mouth. Around the iron axe creates wind, and then there is a storm. After forming a storm, the goddess of springs shot the storm at the top of the huge sails of the Discovery's main mast. Under the action of this powerful storm, the Discovery speeded up and sailed forward. Wow, that's fast, Luffy shouted. It's so exciting, Usopp said suddenly. Nami shouted, it's so scary. Sanji quickly rushed to the helm of the Discovery and began to steer. Ladies, don't worry, the boat won't deviate with me, Sanji said. Sanji worked hard to control the rudder, allowing the meteor warship to stabilize its direction and continue moving forward. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 563. ID Con 1702376. Some were not directly blown down, but the collapse of the related passages caused the security officers and soldiers in the passages to be suffocated to death due to suffocation. A large number of security troops died in fortifications and tunnels. General Duran, who was behind the fortification group, has been observing the development of the battle situation. I saw that the security military-industrial complex was blown into rubble. It's really tragic, we really lost. General Duran said with emotion. Most of the fortifications of the security forces were destroyed. The current situation is a complete defeat of the security forces. The senior officers around General Duran looked at him with sad faces. General Du Lun, let's retreat. It's not very safe here, a senior officer said hastily. General Du Lun also understood that it was an irreversible defeat, and in the final analysis, the root cause of this defeat was the destruction of the previous security warships. This allowed the Sea Dock to approach here and carry out a fierce shelling operation. General Du Lun was also helpless. Although he was helping the building until it collapsed, the foundation of this building had been destroyed, and there was no way to raise it up. Okay, everyone. Let's prepare to evacuate first, General Du Lun said. The order was quickly communicated. The officers and soldiers of General Duran's security force headquarters and some remaining security forces retreated one after another. There were originally more than security forces guarding the place, excluding of course some of the troops of the 4th Army who were taken away by the commander of the Cola's army midway. Of the more than security officers and soldiers, only more than escaped alive. More than elite security officers and soldiers were buried among the fortifications. This battle completely wiped out the main force of the security forces in Magic Valley City. Of course, there is also the reorganization of the troops of the 5th Army under the command of the head of the Drake Army to fight. However, It did not participate in the battle of the fortification group. Moreover, it is certain that it will die in the face of the offshore dock to participate in the battle. The security forces have already been beaten like this, and the most powerful armed force in Magic Valley City and Gaia Island is the real pillar of Grandet's rule. Without the armed forces as a pillar, Grandet's rule is also about to collapse. However, at the Grandet Mansion, the battle between Rog and Luffy, Sanji and Robin is to directly capture the leader. Delivers a fatal blow to the enemy's heart. At the Grandet Mansion, Rog and Luffy have been fighting fiercely with the security forces outside the mansion. Inside the mansion, Robin was still recovering from his injuries in the room on the second floor. Sanji continued to fight with Sargeras in the fourth floor corridor of the mansion. The fierce battle between the two severely damaged the corridor on the fourth floor. Swirling axe. Sargeras arched his arms and threw two hatchets. The two hatchets spin and attack in an arc towards Sanji. Sanji suddenly somersaulted backwards and dodged Sargeras' attack. It's really good. You were able to fight with me for so long, Sanji said appreciatively to Sagras. Being able to continue fighting for so long, Sanji felt that Sargeras was much more difficult to deal with than the previous big man Jeter. Sargeras was even more exhausted, he was sweating profusely, and he was out of breath. After all, strictly speaking, he is not Sanji's opponent. Sagras was able to fight to such an extent that it was already remarkable. It's really powerful. I can understand that you dare to break into this heavily guarded mansion because of your strength, Sagras said. Sargeras continued to fight hard, and he fought Sanji violently with two hatchets. However, Sanji's fighting state is still very strong, and the power of his kicks has not weakened at all. But Sagras became weaker the more he fought. His body was fighting desperately, and his physical strength was severely exhausted. Sanji quickly approached Sargeras, aimed at Sargeras' head and kicked him with his legs. Head meet. Sagras quickly crossed two short-handled axes in front of his head. But Sanji's leg suddenly changed direction. Sanji's leg kicked Sagras' stomach this time. Belly. Sanji kicked Sagras in the stomach. After Sagras was kicked in the abdomen, he fell backward. After Sagras fell, Sanji continued to attack. Kick against etiquette. Sanji's foot violently kicked Sargeras' body from bottom to top. This kick was so powerful that it sent Sargeras flying into the roof. Boom! With a loud bang, Sagras' body hit the ceiling of the corridor. Because Sanji kicked him so hard that the top of the hallway was smashed. After the hallway ceiling was smashed, Sagras fell. He continued to hold on to the two hatchets to continue the fight. Sanji jumped up quickly. Superlative ground meat. Sanji kicked dozens of times fiercely with both feet. Dozens of kicks hit Sagras. Sargeras suffered a heavy blow, and his whole body rolled several times in succession. Sargeras' body finally rolled to the end of the corridor. Sargeras was hit hard, and he crashed at the end of the corridor. The bones on his body were shattered, his internal organs were also severely injured, and blood flowed out of his mouth continuously. Obviously life is not long. You win. Sagras reluctantly said this and then became completely motionless. Sanji walked up to Sagras, looked at him and said, "You are really amazing." Although Sagras failed, he fought bravely with Sanji. Gained the respect of Sanji. Sanji continued to move forward and started walking towards the next level. Judging from the situation, Jeter guards the third floor and Sagras guards the fourth floor, so in the end only the fifth floor remains. Then Grandet and the tall, thin bodyguard must be there too. Especially the tall and thin bodyguard made Sanji's teeth itch with hatred. "How dare you hurt Sister Robin, I will never forgive you." Sanji gritted his teeth and said. Sanji went up the stairs to the fifth floor of the mansion on the top floor. When Sanji was about to reach the fifth floor, there was an explosion under his feet. Boom! Sanji was blown away by the violent explosion. He was washed down the stairs by the explosion, and rolled back to the fourth floor. Ahem, how could this happen? Sanji barely stood up again. His black suit was not damaged even in the fierce battle with Jeter and Sageras before. After being hit by a hidden bomb just now, his black suit was severely damaged. After Sanji's black suit was severely damaged, Sanji continued to look at the stairs. I didn't expect someone to plant a bomb here. Sanji looked towards the stairs and said. I don't know how many hidden organs there are in the 5th floor. The other party must want to assassinate Sanji in this way. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 564. ID Con 1702391. Chopper said while eating the cake, really? Usopp continued, of course that's not all. Captain Usopp also accidentally saved a Navy warship with one hand. Usopp gushed over his glorious deeds. Just as dinner was being held on the deck of the Discovery. Above the sky, Leo, who had already transformed into a seagull form, spread his wings and flew. Only the moon and stars shine in the dark night. But it's not a problem for Leo at all. The eyes of seagulls can also clearly distinguish objects on the sea below at night. Behind Leo were 4 huge seagulls. These 4 are the king seagulls invited by Leo. A king seagull can reach more than meters with its wings spread. These great king gulls are actually 4 brothers. They used to be giant seabirds that lived in windless areas and fed on sea kings. But Leo found them once, and there was a conflict. But Leo won the approval of the 4 brothers of the king seagull with his strong ability and the spirit of defending the seagull race. They also went to live on the cliffs above Seagull Island, the great route where Leo was. In the past, many ships traveling on the sea area of the great route were attacked by Leo, and the 4 brothers King Seagull often helped. They hunt and kill humans, and Leo seizes various weapons and supplies on the ship. This time Leo personally invited them to go out together. The 4 King Seagull brothers were furious when they heard that seagulls were being slaughtered and even used as food. Together with Leo, they attacked the Discovery and everyone. But they didn't come empty-handed. Many heavy bombs were tied to the torsos of the 4 King Seagull brothers. 30 heavy bombs are strapped to the torso of each great King Seagull. The shape of these heavy bombs is exactly the same as the heavy bombs used by Leo during the daytime raid on the Discovery. The King Seagulls are carrying heavy bombs and are preparing to attack the Discovery under the guidance of Leo. Leo himself only carried 4 bombs. He's mostly guiding and revenge this time around. I must destroy these stinky humans, Leo said fiercely. After continuous flying, Leo and the King Seagulls finally flew to the sea area where the Discovery was. In the sea below, the Discovery rover is sailing. Although it was already night, Leo and the King Seagulls could still clearly see the Discovery below. Leo's piercing eyes saw a faint burst of fire on the deck of the Great Sea Explorer below. Damn it, so many seagulls have been killed. How dare you eat dinner comfortably like this? But, you will soon feel what terror is, Leo said. Leo took the lead and flew towards the Discovery below. The King Seagulls also followed, but they flew higher. Leo flew above the Discovery and aimed at the front of the deck. That's where Rog and Sauron had their dinner. Suffer death, bastards. Leo aimed at the deck and dropped 2 heavy bombs first. 2 heavy bombs hit the deck. Everyone who was dining on the deck was talking and laughing. At this moment, Rog, Sauron, and the King of Ninjas felt something was wrong. A dangerous breath approached. Sauron's sense is especially strong. Zoro and the Ninja King suddenly looked up, and saw 2 heavy bombs falling down. Although the moonlight and starlight were dim, the 2 of them could still see the 2 heavy bombs. Seeing this, Zoro said in a bad way, "Oh no, quickly find a way to deflect the bomb." Roger quickly took out a rattan whip. Quickly infuse fruit power into it. Vine whip. Super Vine Net. Rog used the plant fruit ability to interweave the vine whip repeatedly, turning it into a huge net. A huge net covered the upper deck and quickly rushed towards the top. When the two heavy bombs were only more than 10 meters away from the deck, they were caught by the huge Super Rattan net. Okay, let's go. Zoro and the Ninja King took the opportunity to jump up quickly, and each grabbed one side of the Super Vine net. The two of them worked hard together. The Super Vine net and the two heavy bombs inside were thrown into the sea on the left side of the Discovery deck. After the two heavy bombs were dropped, they exploded quickly. Boom, rumble, rumble. Two explosions sounded, and the water column actually splashed tens of meters high. Everyone on the deck was terrified. Usopp was so scared that he lay on the deck. Chopper hid behind Luffy in fright. Luffy also exclaimed at the huge splash of water. Wow, that's so cool. Rog, Zoro, the king of ninjas. Is this a show performed by the three of you? Luffy said excitedly. Rog and Sauron both said helplessly, what? We were attacked. The Ninja King was also shocked for a while, and then quickly looked around. Now it was suddenly attacked, and there was no one else but Leo. And the heavy bomb used just now was also used by Leo. Usopp immediately stood up and looked around and at the night sky. God, look, Usopp said, pointing his finger at the sky. Everyone looked up at the night sky. I saw a shadow like a seagull in the sky. This shadow is in the sky above Discovery. But judging by the appearance, there is no doubt that it is Leo. But what really terrified and surprised everyone was that there were 4 huge seabird-like things flying in the higher sky. What's going on? Usopp said in surprise. I'm afraid we have more than one enemy, Rog said. There are a lot of monsters too, Luffy said. In the night sky, the 2 heavy bombs that Leo dropped first were successfully blocked. Why is this happening? Leo looked at the other party in surprise and said. On the deck of the Explorer below, Rog looked at the terrifying shadows in the night sky. If you are fighting on deck or on land, you are not afraid of anything. But worst of all, the enemy is in the sky. The enemy is using the sky advantage to attack here. At this time, the goddess of spring water said, let me try it. The goddess of spring suddenly used an iron axe. She held up the iron axe and whispered a magic spell in her mouth. Around the iron axe creates wind, and then there is a storm. After forming a storm, the goddess of springs shot the storm at the top of the huge sails of the Discovery's main mast. Under the action of this powerful storm, the Discovery speeded up and sailed forward. Wow, so fast, Luffy shouted happily. It's so exciting, Usopp said excitedly. Nami shouted, it's so scary. Sanji quickly rushed to the helm of the Discovery and began to steer. Ladies, don't worry, the boat won't deviate with me, Sanji said. Sanji worked hard to control the rudder, allowing the meteor warship to stabilize its direction and continue moving forward. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 565. ID Con 17031138. Fortunately, Sanji was very cautious and successfully avoided the first such weird mechanism. Sanji searched these rooms more cautiously and slowly afterwards. Anyway, Grandet and the tall and thin bodyguard must be in the room on the 5th floor and cannot escape. The turtles in the urn don't have to worry about them escaping, as long as they act cautiously. After searching 19 rooms on the left and right in succession, a total of 38 rooms were searched. That is to say, we have reached the last 2 rooms on the left and right. Sanji looked at the 2 rooms. There was no trace before, and it is impossible for them to escape. It seems that they really want to hide until the end. Sanji now thinks about which room to open first. And the opponent must be paying attention in the dark. After all, the sound of Sanji's starting mechanism was still very loud before. But these 2 final rooms are different. As long as one of the rooms is opened, the enemy is very likely to take the initiative to attack. Because if there are enemies in the opened room, then it is natural to fight directly. But if there are no enemies, then there must be no doubt in another room. In this case, the enemy will not sit still, but will definitely take the opportunity to attack from another room. Which one should I do? Sanji moved his arms and ankles calmly, preparing for the final fierce battle. After choosing left and right, Sanji quickly kicked towards the door of the room on the right. Clang! With a loud bang, the door of this room was kicked open. There is nothing inside. However, a puff of gas was quickly produced. Puff! A puff of gas mixed with mustard and chili powder came out. It's very choking, enough to produce a tear gas-like effect. At this moment, the door of the room on the left also suddenly opened. A figure rushed out, his speed was astonishing. And he held a sharp dagger in his hand. The dagger pierced Sanji's neck. At this moment, Sanji slammed his hands on the ground, and kicked the short sword with his feet in the opposite direction. Chong! Sanji's feet exchanged violently with the dagger. The upside-down Sanji successfully blocked the dagger attack, which shocked the sneak-attacking Magath. Sanji suddenly jumped to the side, turned around and looked at Magath. Sanji looked at the other party, and saw that the other party was a tall and thin man with sharp eyes like the eyes of an eagle. Coupled with the use of short swords in his hands. There is no doubt that it was the bodyguard who stabbed Robin earlier. It's really you, Sanji said calmly. Magath also looked at Sanji very strangely. It's really strong that you can catch my attack. And why are you not affected by those tear gas? Magath looked at Sanji coldly and asked. It's a shame you said all this mustard and cayenne pepper. What I can tell you is that I've seen this trick too many times before. I know someone who is infinitely more skilled at this than the one who set this up, Sanji said disdainfully. In the past, Usopp often invented various weapons and tools, and the destroyed stars were often used as jokes, and even used in battles. Sanji naturally knew how to prevent this weapon. In the past, Usopp used the spicy seasoning used in Sanji's cooking to make tear gas weapons in private, and was repaired severely by Sanji. But at this time, he was in the room on the left, behind Magath, who rushed out. O'Rourke felt awkward for a while after hearing this. He thinks that the destructive weapon he made is very strong. Moreover, the mechanism is specially arranged in the room on the right, which will be triggered once it is opened. But Sanji not only successfully deciphered his tear gas weapon, but also declared that his weapon was nothing compared to the other guy. This made O'Rourke very annoyed and helpless. Sanji looked at Magath, and he hated Magath extremely in his heart. Magath stabs Robin and nearly dies. This makes Sanji, who has always defended the safety and dignity of women, feel unforgivable. Especially since Robin is Sanji's favorite lady. You guys dare to hurt my favorite lady, Sanji said to Magath, full of resentment. Magath naturally knew what Sanji was talking about. Your partner is very capable. So I have to give priority to her, Magath said coldly. Sanji glared at Magath and said, but I want to tell you, there is a price to pay for hurting a lady. Although Sanji is full of resentment, he is still calm in his heart. He knew very well what the main purpose was now. The main purpose now is still to capture Granddad. Otherwise, Robin's injury would be in vain. Sanji moved his gaze from Magath to behind him. In the room behind Magath, there is also a short and stocky man and Granddad hiding in the back. At this time, Granddad, who shrank his head and hid at the back, was terrified when he saw Sanji. His heart beat violently. The legs trembled constantly. After O'Rourke saw Sanji, although he was still calm, he was also very nervous. After all the mechanisms he had carefully arranged before were ruined. Now in this case, Magath is equal to the last line of defense of the three. Once Magath is defeated, Sanji can take out O'Rourke and Granddad with one foot. Sanji once again looked at Magath full of fighting spirit. Okay, you bastard who hurt the lady. Let's have a showdown. Being a knight will let you know what honor is, Sanji said seriously. Sanji is full of vigor like a dueling knight. Magath looked at Sanji, and really felt the combination of elegance and fighting in Sanji's bones. But for a cold-blooded killer like him, as long as the battle can be won, he can use any means. Okay, let's get started. Magath said grimly. Magath held his 50-centimeter short sword in his right arm. His left arm also quickly threw a cm-long dagger from his sleeve. Magath held a dagger in each hand and assumed an assassination stance. Cutting shoot. Sanji struck first with his right foot, tearing up the air and quickly kicking Magath's left hand. The blow was swift and violent, and Magath quickly blocked it with the dagger held in his left hand. But Sanji's foot changed direction slightly midway, and kicked Magath on the back of his left hand. Boom! The back of Magath's left hand was hit like a heavy hammer, and the dagger in his hand flew out. The dagger in Magath's right hand quickly took the opportunity to attack Sanji's calf. Sanji quickly retracted his feet. Immediately afterwards, Sanji quickly stood firm on his right foot, and immediately struck out with his left foot. Loin. Sanji kicked Magath sideways with his left foot to the right side of the waist. Magath was caught off guard by this blow. He was kicked on the right side of the waist and quickly fell to the left. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee R. A Dream. Chapter 566. ID Con 1703139. But Magath is a killer after all, he quickly somersaulted to the far side of the corridor. Magath arrived at a position more than 10 meters away from Sanji, and he looked at Sanji. At the same time, he quickly moved his injured left hand. Sanji's meat-cutting shoot is a powerful move that specifically attacks the opponent's hands. This attack knocks the weapon out of the opponent's hand. Sanji continues his attack. The 2 kicks just now were given to you for my partner. Now is the real battle. Sanji approached Magath, kicking and attacking continuously. Magath backed up while blocking with his feet and arms. Sanji didn't expect that Magath also had some skills. He managed to block the kick of his legs. As an assassin, Magath is also quite powerful in his fists and feet, and his body is also very flexible. He's fully capable of holding off Sanji to some degree through hand-to-hand combat. Your strength is really not bad. Sanji praised Magath during the battle. Although Magath withstood Sanji's fierce kick, he was still clearly at a disadvantage. After all, Sanji's leg skills are not a little bit strong. Do you fight only with your legs? Magath suddenly asked. Sanji continued to attack, exchanging tricks with his opponent. I didn't tell you, I'm a chef. So I don't use my arms to fight. My legs are what I can take on any enemy I see, Sanji said. Unless Sanji uses his hands to fight in places related to the kitchen or restaurant, he only fights with his legs in other places. Also, I generally don't use my hands to fight. But I can assist. Sanji said suddenly. At this time, Sanji suddenly put his arms on the ground, and the whole person fell down. Banquet table and kicking package. Sanji put his hands on the ground, spread his feet and started a spinning kick. Dong 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 dong. Sanji's feet collided violently with Magath's arms. Magath failed to resist many of these attacks. Magath was kicked consecutively. Magath is now showing defeat. In the middle of the corridor, in the room on the left at the far end, O'Rourke, who was short and stocky, poked his head out, holding a pistol tightly in both hands. This pistol has been modified by him to add a scope. Captain Magath is about to fail. Now is really the time for me to show my power. O'Rourke carefully aimed at Sanji in the middle of the battle. Among the crosshairs of the scope, Sanji was aimed at the cross in the center. At this time, Sanji and Magath are fighting fiercely. Magath is an unscrupulous person for victory, and considering that Sanji can defeat Jeter and Sagras in a row, Magath ordered Orok to prepare to shoot secretly. After Sanji was targeted, Orlok pulled the trigger of the pistol. Boom! A shot went off. A bullet pellet hit Sanji's head. The time around Sanji and Magath, who were in the middle of the battle, seemed to slow down at this moment. A round, finger-sized pellet flew towards Sanji's head. But instead of hitting Sanji's head, the projectile grazed the hair on the front of Sanji's forehead. The projectile continued to fly into the distance, and several hairs fell down. Sanji managed to dodge the bullet. So close. Sanji hurriedly dodged to the side against the wall. Here, Sanji caught sight of O'Rourke, who was shooting from the dark. O'Rourke gripped the pistol in both hands, shocked. He actually dodged. Could it be that he did the evasive action when I pulled the trigger? O'Rourke said in disbelief. There are many people in this world who have strong senses and can sense the opponent's attack intentions. An ability called knowledge color domineering is that the user can feel everything around him through the power of hearing. Knowledge and domineering can sharpen the five senses, detect the breath of surrounding microorganisms, changes in emotions, predict and avoid danger. As long as people are alive, they can make special sounds, and with these sounds, they can predict the opponent's next move and position. And the range can be increased through exercise. Sanji actually has the embryonic form of knowledgeable domineering, so he can effectively avoid bullets in advance. However, Sanji has not really mastered the arrogance of knowledge and knowledge, but only relies on a little instinct at the beginning. Otherwise, the bullet wouldn't even be able to hurt his hair. It's here. Sanji looked at Orlok, who was making a secret attack. O'Rourke realized that he was discovered by Sanji. He was trembling all over, and his spine was cold. Sanji quickly rushed towards Orlok, and Orlok quickly continued to aim his pistol at Sanji and continued shooting. Bang 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 bang. The bullets continued to shoot at Sanji. Sanji dodged these bullets instinctively. Bullets and pellets flew past Sanji one by one. Some even wiped Sanji's black suit, but none of them effectively killed Sanji's body. Sanji finally rushed to Oriko. This short and stocky man looked at the handsome curly-browed guy who was full of anger and felt extremely terrified. It was as frightening as falling into the abyss of hell. Cutting shoot. Sanji kicked out with his right foot, and the pistol in Orok's hand was kicked away. Then the short, stocky man was kicked by Sanji more violently than ever before. You look so wretched, let me help you with plastic surgery. Sanji looked at Orok and said. O'Rourke was terrified, but Sanji's foot was already kicked head-on. Sanji kicked Orlok's eyes from the front, making Orlok's eyes sunken. Nose. Sanji kicked Orok's nose again from the front, deforming Orok's nose and bridge of the nose. Cheek. Sanji kicked Orok's cheek from the side, making Orok's cheek deformed and sunken. Mouth. Sanji kicked Orlok's mouth from bottom to top, causing Orlok's lips to dent inwards. Teeth. Sanji kicked Orok's teeth head-on, causing Orok's teeth to be impacted. Jaw. Sanji kicks the opponent's chin from the bottom up, causing the opponent to lose his balance and fall backwards. The final blow, plastic surgery. Sanji jumped up suddenly, his feet kicked O'Rourke's face bones continuously at high speed, and O'Rourke's head shook violently. In the midst of Sanji's powerful and continuous kicks, O'Rourke's face and appearance completely changed. After the last continuous kick, O'Rourke flew out and hit the wall heavily. The short and stocky O'Rourke knelt on the ground, and he covered his face vigorously. What's wrong with me? There happened to be a mirror in the middle of this room. O'Rourke was worried, thinking that the face was already inhuman, but he still wanted to see what the injury looked like. What? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 567. ID Con 1704284. Seeing his face in the mirror, O'Rourke shouted in shock. In the mirror, I saw a face as delicate as that of a handsome man in an oil painting. Seeing his own beautiful face, O'Rourke was immersed in shock for a long time. He touched his face with both hands in disbelief. Whether it was the tall nose bridge, the angular face, the beautiful eyes full of charm, the tight lips and the perfect chin, they all confirmed a fact. O'Rourke turned into a handsome man. Sanji looked at O'Rourke with a complicated expression in the mirror. Plastic surgery package is a combat skill specially designed to perform plastic surgery on those with bad looks. To put it bluntly, this skill was invented when I was bored. And I will not attack women, so this kind of the skill is only suitable for use on some men. Sanji lit another cigarette and explained calmly. O'Rourke continued to revel in his new look. He turned his face to Sanji, and he didn't know whether it was gratitude or admiration. Sanji took a deep breath from the cigarette, blew out another smoke ring and said, "But there is also a drawback to this, and that is." O'Rourke looked at Sanji with a bright face, wanting to wait for what he would say. "That means the height and shape will not change," Sanji said calmly. O'Rourke looked at his own body again and found that it was still the same. Now he has an exquisitely handsome face, but his body is still short and stocky. This looks extremely incongruous, even more ridiculous than before. "I thank you," O'Rourke shouted to Sanji. O'Rourke ran up to Sanji, knelt down and kowtowed to him. Dong 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 dong. O'Rourke's head hit the ground loudly. "Thank you for giving me a perfect appearance," O'Rourke said gratefully. Sanji looked at him and said helplessly, "I didn't mean to help you, but I didn't expect you to be so happy." "Then you should cherish your new face first. Don't damage it." "Yes, yes." O'Rourke stood up quickly, and he took out a small mirror and began to take a picture of his narcissistic self. O'Rourke is now reborn because of Sanji's plastic surgery package, so he is naturally in love with his own appearance. Originally, he was a short and stocky man with a wretched appearance, but now he has a handsome face. O'Rourke is naturally immersed in boundless intoxication. Sanji shifted his gaze to Grandet, who was behind O'Rourke. The sly white-haired old man now looked at Sanji in horror and shock. Grandet has been proficient in money and power for many years, but he was shocked by Sanji, who has unimaginable fighting power. Sanji looked at Grandet and said, "Oh, you are Grandet." Grandet looked at Sanji in horror, and said tremblingly, Don't hurt me, I will give you whatever money you want." Sanji looked dismissively and said contemptuously, "Who cares about your money? What I want is to catch you or kill you." Grandet looked at Sanji tremblingly, he was about to collapse to the ground. Grandet looked at O'Rourke and said, "O'Rourke, please protect me quickly. I can give you as much money as you want." O'Rourke has been immersed in his beautiful new face. O'Rourke said extremely narcissistically, "Money? I love my new face even more now. It was the beautiful face given to me by this handsome man with curly eyebrows. How can I fight with him again? And I am not his opponent." After Grandet looked at O'Rourke, he sat down on the ground in complete despair. Sanji looked at Grandet and walked towards him. At this moment, Magatha's figure suddenly moved over. Magath swung the dagger with his right hand and aimed at Sanji's neck and stabbed it. Cutting shoot. Sanji jumped up with his left foot, aiming at Magatha's right hand and kicking. Boom. Magatha's right hand was kicked by Sanji. The dagger held in his right hand was knocked away. Sanji didn't stop, he continued to attack continuously with his feet. Shoulder tenderloin. Loin. Back rib. Belly. Upper thigh meat. Tail meat. Thigh meat. Shin meat. After the continuous kicks, Sanji jumped into the air and kicked Magath intensively with both feet. Veal shoot. A storm of kicks hit Magatha's whole body. Sanji has an unforgettable hatred for Magath. He hurt Robin, which Sanji would never forgive. Magatha's whole body trembled violently under Sanji's violent kick. The muscles of Magatha's whole body were torn apart by the violent attack, and his bones cracked and shattered for a while. His internal organs were also severely hit, and he was bleeding violently inside. Boom! Magatha's entire body flew away under Sanji's last attack. After Magatha's body flew out, he finally hit the wall heavily. At this time, Magatha was in a mess and was obviously severely traumatized. Magatha's body has been so hurt, he is almost hard to move now. Grandet was not far away at this time, and he looked at Magatha's bruised body. It's really over, Grandet said desperately. So desperate was Grandet that he now lost any bodyguards. And his money can't impress Sanji at all. It can be said that there is only a dead end in front of Grandet. Sanji looked at Magatha, who was knocked down. Sanji suddenly found that Magatha seemed to be able to move. Well. Magatha, who was hit hard, barely moved his arm. Now he has fractures in many parts of his body, and he is bleeding heavily from internal organs, and he is already on the verge of death. But even so, the killer, who was full of the will to fight, still worked hard to move his arms. Magatha looked at Sanji with a twitching face. You win, but we are all going to die. Magatha gritted his teeth. At this time, Magatha suddenly unbuttoned the suit on the chest, revealing 2 rows of explosives. Sanji and Grandet were surprised to see this present. Even O'Rourke, who was immersed in his own beautiful face, woke up like a dream. Dynamite Sanji's expression also changed. Magatha used his last strength to pull the fuses of the explosives tied to his body apart. Zzz. Both rows of explosives began to emit sparks and white smoke. Before long, these explosives will explode. Sanji turned around and ran, leaving the room quickly. Grandet and O'Rourke left quickly. But the speed of the two is too slow. Magatha looked at the 3 fleeing people, and he closed his eyes. Let's go to hell together. Magatha had the last word. The fuses of the 2 rows of explosives burned to the end. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 568. ID Con 1704293. Boom rumble. A violent explosion occurred. An astonishing explosion of fire and impact covered the room and destroyed the walls extending into the hallway. Grandet, who was running the slowest, was engulfed first by the fireball. The short and stocky O'Rourke was also buried in it. Sanji rushed out at an astonishing speed, but the explosion and flames behind him were still there. What? Sanji was thrown away by the explosion behind him, and finally rolled for more than 10 meters in the corridor before stopping. The explosion is finally over. It hurts so much. Sanji struggled to stand up again. He extinguished the flames on the already tattered suit. If you look closely, you can see that there are many injuries on the body. Then turned around and looked into the corridor. The corridor was already in a mess after the explosion. Several consecutive rooms at the end were destroyed. The remaining flames and smoke are still there. Are they all dead? Sanji walked over to check the situation. The first thing he saw was the small, stocky body of O'Rourke. However, O'Rourke's whole body was bloody, and the scorched face after plastic surgery was already unrecognizable. Sanji took a few glances and then continued walking forward. He saw a lean corpse, which was exactly the previous Grandet from the clothes. Moreover, the left arm of Grandet's corpse was blown off. This man, who was good at money and power in his lifetime, is now dying so miserably. This has to make people feel embarrassed for a while. Sanji continued to walk inside, and finally reached the room at the far end on the left. The inside of this room has already been bombed and there are broken rubble everywhere. Magatha was blown to pieces long ago. This crazy killer didn't forget to drag his opponent to hell until the last moment. Seeing the messy scene inside, Sanji left here. He walked to Grandet's body again and took a few photos with the camera phone he carried. The fifth floor was already in a mess, and Sanji thought of Robin, who was recuperating on the second floor. "By the way, hurry up. Sister Robin is waiting for me." Sanji hurriedly left the fifth floor. Sanji quickly returned to the second floor of the mansion. In the room where Robin was recuperating, Sanji pushed open the door. "Miss Robin." Sanji looked at Robin in the room. Now Robin seems to be looking better after a period of rest. Robin's deep eyes also saw Sanji. "Sanji, you're back," Robin said calmly. Robin saw that Sanji's black suit was very tattered, but Sanji's face was filled with a happy expression. After Sanji saw that Robin was getting better, he said, "Sister Robin, you feel better?" "Yes. I feel better," Robin said. Robin looked at Sanji's body repeatedly and said, "Have you successfully captured Grandet?" Sanji said happily, "Tell him. It's a pity that he couldn't be captured alive. Grandet is dead." "But he is dead anyway." Robin asked, "Look, did you kill him?" Sanji said, "Nothing. I first defeated the bodyguard who stabbed you. He jumped over the wall and used his own explosives to try to drag me to hell. The result was that he and Grandet were killed together." "That's what it is," Robin said. "I will not let anyone who dares to hurt Miss Robin go. Anyway, I have already helped Miss Robin to take revenge," Sanji said. Robin looked out the window again and said, "Rog and Luffy are still fighting." Outside the window, the sound of shouting and killing continued to come. Sanji looked out of the window, and then at Robin's body. "Sister Robin, we still need to evacuate. And we will inform everyone about Grandet's death. Even the enemy will cease fighting. More importantly, you need further careful treatment," Sanji said. "Okay," Robin said. In the huge courtyard of the Grandet mansion, Rog and Luffy continued to fight hard with the Fourth Army commanded by the commander of the Korra's army. During the fierce battle, the remaining nearly security officers and soldiers commanded by Korra's were consumed, and only more than people were left. These remaining security forces are almost on the verge of collapse because they continue to fight and have no results. Korra's and a group of senior officers fought desperately to suppress the troops. Under the pressure of military law, the remnants of the army fought feebly. Puff. Rog chopped down another security officer armed with a saber. "I'm really tired. I've been fighting for so long and I feel tired," Rog said, looking at the still large number of security forces. But Rog saw a burly officer riding on a healthy horse. The style of the military coat resembled that of a high-ranking officer, and the other party's attire reminded him of Monclo, the commander of the Third Army, when he first encountered him. Could it be that he is the leader of the enemy army? After Rog made a judgment, he started to kill the opponent. At this time, the commander of the Korra's army was riding on a healthy horse, barely commanding the battle. Although he has a cold personality, his military command is vigorous and resolute. But facing the situation before him, he was about to collapse mentally. "What's wrong with this is an enemy that can't be defeated no matter what," the head of the Korra's legion said with emotion. When Korra said this, he also noticed that Rog suddenly rushed in his direction. Could it be that? An extremely terrifying idea arose in the mind of Commander Korras. He quickly issued orders to the guard cavalry on the left and right. "Stop him quickly," Commander of the Korra's legion ordered. 4 cavalry rode their horses and rushed towards Rog. Rog faced these enemies wielding the great sword of iron birch. Puff. Rog directly cut off the leg of a strong horse underneath a cavalryman. With the remaining 3 cavalrymen, Rog didn't bother too much, and directly swung the iron birch sword and cut off the legs of the opponent's horse. Rog quickly approached the commander of the Korra's army. The commander of the Korra's army looked at Rog, who was approaching, and hurriedly steered his horse to escape. At the same time, he took out a pistol from his waist and pointed it at Roger. Boom! The commander of the Kora's legion pulled the trigger. A bullet hit Rog's walnut armor. The walnut armor only had a few more scratches, but it was still in good condition. The walnut armor on Rog's body has also become much damaged after a long period of fierce fighting. Numerous large and small cracks, blood stains and scorched places made the walnut armor look devastated. Bang 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 bang. The leader of the Kora's army fired continuously, but he couldn't destroy the walnut armor on Rog. Oh no, run faster. The commander of the Kola's army quickly accelerated the horse's gallop. When Rog saw the horse running under the commander of the Kora's legion speeding up, it was difficult for him to catch up.